Hey everybody, this is Victor Brodén from Transatlantic Radio, and I'm at the Talking About Rock podcast.
All right, so at the beginning of the world shutdown in 2020, Los Angeles-based Swedish-born bass player Victor Brodén found himself locked out of his normal touring work. Like many other professional sidemen, he decided to write some songs and get some practice with digital recording, not necessarily with the intention of letting anyone hear them. Creating some stylistic choices from obvious straight-down-the-middle AOR, the musical equivalent of sugary comfort food to brighten us all. So, Transatlantic Radio was born. Here to talk with us about the debut album, Midnight Transmission, out February 20th. Let's welcome Victor Brodén. Victor, how are you?
I'm great. I'm in sunny LA, and we finally got rid of our horrible rainy season, and then I got sunny in 75, and stoked to be here with you and your followers and listeners.
Excellent. We appreciate you being here, definitely. So what made this the right time to launch Transatlantic Radio when you did?
You know what? It is interesting. The bit that you read is all true, of course, and it was extremely not calculated. I grew up on AOR. I've been obsessed with AOR, even though I've made a living playing for artists in many other genres, mostly modern country and heavy metal and what have you. But AOR has been near and dear to my heart. And for those of us that do music for a full-time living as hired guns, it's very rare that we just mess around like somebody who does it for a hobby with no intent of the market being involved. And I know this might be hard to believe, but for me, I made this first song, I think the second month of shutdown. So it was really shut down. And I just thought, hey, I'm a professional musician. Every time I produce a record, I hire people to run the computers for me and do all the technical, and I just produce. And I thought, at the time I was in my mid 40s, and I thought, hey, I need to sit down with my computer and get better at self-engineering. You know, there's a bunch of 12-year-olds that do better than me. So it's time to work on that skill, right? And the first song that we released, I guess 4 years ago now, That's What You Get for Falling in Love, which is on this record, came out of me. I just, I'm not a great guitar player, but I just came up with that song with the intent of only using it for me to practice my computer and my software. I didn't intend for anyone to hear it. And because I didn't care what everyone else thought, it came out very pure. And I still love it to this day, 4 years later. So that's how the project got started. A truly innocent place just for myself, and almost like a fluke. But once I had some of these incredible musicians that I knew from my work and life, once they agreed to play on it, and then when their workload started picking back up after COVID, I thought they would be out. They would have no time for a hobby project, but they all stayed in and wanted to do more. And I couldn't be more proud or more excited over this project or the guys involved in it. It sounds cheesy, but I'm really honored to be surrounded with this little group of guys. So that's how it started.
Yeah, you've said that this the completion of this album is like a love letter to the music that shaped your life. What can you share with us about the latest single, City of Angels?
That song in particular would suit that description you just mentioned, because I wrote that was the last song I wrote for this record. So I wrote that May or June last year, the very last one. And I wanted a song that sounded like the first song I did, That's What You Get for Falling in Love. I wanted something that sounded less involved. It doesn't have a bunch of parts or a bunch of modulations and all this other AOR sugar. It's like a straight in the middle of the road, sounds like it's out of an 80s movie, and And it's there's definitely like a little cheese element. It's gluttonous AOR cheese, but stoked about this new single because it's getting a lot better reception than I thought. I didn't think of it as a single when I wrote it, but now that it's been out for a week, it's been really fun seeing how it goes. And that song in particular is a love letter because it's so. It sounds like a teenager could have written it, and that's important. That purity and that childlike sort of straight to the point thing is important. I've always loved AC/DC. I worship Bryan Adams, and they are a very capable musician who never ever put things in their songs that are there to impress. So I wanted that pure, straight to the point energy.
Yeah, I think you've really, really done that. And like you stated a little bit earlier, you've backed up multi-platinum selling artists, like Richard Marx, LeAnn Rimes, Jelly Roll, and Dokken, just to name a few. Do you have any influences or bass heroes from any of that, from any of those outfits, or maybe some other stuff they really influenced you?
Yeah, man, that's literally one of my favorite questions because most bass players, they will list a few guys that play like bass solos or that's flashy. But, I'm 52 years old. And since I was 12 years old, my three biggest heroes have been like Springsteen, Bon Jovi, and Bryan Adams, right? And so the guys that played bass for those artists were my bass heroes because they played on what I considered to be the best songs. And I always wanted to play on songs. So to list those guys, Gary Talent has been the bass player for the E Street Band for 55 years, basically. Right. And the original bass player for Bryan Adams was Dave Taylor from Vancouver, I believe. And then, of course, Hugh McDonald from Bon Jovi is arguably, he's a good friend, but he's arguably my biggest influence. His McCartney melodic sense and his almost Motown rhythmical sense, to me, is very, very classy. And when it comes to the type of bass you hear on our record, which is a little bit more aggressive with a pick, very straightforward, that is a straight line from Peter Baltus from Accept, another childhood friend who's now, or childhood hero who's now a friend. Between Huey and Peter Baltus and Dave from Bryan Adams and Gary Talent from Springsteen, that's how I sort of learned to play songs and parts that fit songs rather than tricks. I would throw Randy Jackson in that pile as well, of Journey, of course, for a brief period.
Right.
But he played on the greatest Richard Marx records. So there's a connection there. But those are my guys, really. And some of them are not quite so obvious. But Transatlantic Radio is very sugary and melodic, but the bass guitar and the vocal come from a heavier place. And the keyboards and the songwriting comes from a lighter place. And I would say that is kind of how the project came sort of bass-wise,
Yeah. And you mentioned this a little bit earlier. You were kind of a hired gun before all of this, and you're actually playing on a Grammy-winning album, Lifesong, by the Casting Crowns. What can you tell us about that? That's amazing.
Well, it was interesting, man. Like, I lived in Nashville for 18 years, hence all my sort of modern country names on that list. And I was called for a session down in Franklin, a southern suburb of Nashville, at the resident and studio of Mark Miller, who is the lead singer for the 90s country supergroup Sawyer Brown. And nowadays, he still performs for Sawyer Brown, but he owns a contemporary Christian label, I believe. And he was making a lot of records like that. And I just got called in to play for this young Christian rock band. And they basically were so young, they could play well enough, but they used session guys on their record, as did many people in our beloved genre of hard rock and hair metal and AOR. A lot of the records that we grew up on, the playing isn't actually done by the band guys. They're ghost guys.
Right.
Luckily, I'm listed on this record by Casting Crowns, but I was called in as like a session guy to spice it up a little bit compared to what the band members were capable of in their youth. And I'd never heard of them. and I only played on one song on that record, but that song became a huge single. And I was at home in my underwear. I had just been let go from the LeAnn Rimes gig. She switched out basically the whole band after 3 years, very common with touring artists. I was at home eating Ben and Jerry's in my underwear, watching the Grammys, and I saw a little crawl on the bottom of the screen of the acts that had won earlier that day. And I saw Casting Crowns, and I did a double take. I'm like, didn't I play on that? So it's not very glamorous, but that's how I, some people say if you play on a Grammy winning record, you're a Grammy winning artist, and some people say you can't say you are if you just played on it. But it's really a cool song, straight to the point, simple, and it's 20 years old now, but still dig it. '06, I believe it was.
Yeah, definitely very cool, very cool. So another thing I like to talk with artists about, obviously, we're talking about music and playing for different bands and stuff. I want to talk about a little bit about the rise of AI, especially in music. You know what I mean? We see this all over the place. It's not only in music, but that's what we want to talk about for this. How concerned are you as an artist when you see this stuff going on?
I mean, it has progressed to a level of incredible precision, faster than I thought. And I have heard pop and country tracks produced by AI that I like better than human playing. Not gonna lie about that. I've heard some AOR tracks that are completely AI made. And maybe it's because I'm so close to that genre and love it so much, but that stuff didn't quite cut the mustard for me yet. And our keyboard player and my co-producer and co-writer, he's responsible completely for how the album sounds, Fred Crone. He's expressed a lot of concern and talked to me about it a lot, but I think it will affect us as professional sidemen working for other acts, right, in our actual money-making life. But Transatlantic Radio is, for all intents and purposes, a very serious hobby band. And we're not counting dollars, and we don't have goals about being rock stars in our early 50s with this band. We are trying to keep a very pure mind, do it for the love of it, and not look at the competition or at AI and just keep our heads down. But yes, it's super impressive. It's already doing great. And you can't be too scared of it, or you can't be too, you can't let it ruin your life because you still can't stop it. It's one of those things like don't be mad about what you can't do anything about. That's a little bit how I feel about it right now. And I think we all would love if AI would do our taxes and clean our houses instead of making art, right? Because making art we can do ourselves. Right. And the quintessential thing about art, whether you see a great stand-up comedian listening to a super bubblegum cheesy AOR band like Transatlantic Radio, is if the listener recognize themselves and their human experience, or recognize how they felt when they were kids. City of Angels is designed to maybe make you feel like you did when you were hitting town on a Saturday night when you were 17, right? That human element, I think technically AI can do it. But a human recognizing the emotion of another human creating art, I think that'll be as old school as a court jester or a prostitute. I think that's like right. A very old school job that won't go away. Of course, pop is all electronic, and we still, we're in a genre that is a throwback. So we still, use real instrument, and there are human elements that I think are hard to duplicate.
Yeah. Let's hope that stays that way for a little while longer, where we get music that has that emotional connection for people, because that's what people are looking for with whatever song they hear, to get that connection definitely in the song. All right. So, any other news for us you can share? Are you guys looking at any upcoming shows or anything, and talks with anything about that?
Again, we are just after 5 years sort of launching. We did a year and a half ago in southern Sweden, we did 2 gigs the Malmö Melodic Festival, which is all AOR, and we did a big city festival in southern Sweden where we opened for Mel C from the Spice Girls. So we had a whole other audience, younger people that still liked the dad rock. After those two shows, I think a few of us in the band that were thinking we were just going to be a studio project, I think that's when we realized, like, hey, this is very satisfying and feels very spiritual, to sound pretentious. There was a lot of love at those gigs, and we were playing songs nobody's heard. So that experience, I think, has led us to try to book some gigs. Obviously, everyone has very busy schedules, so it's hard to do it. There's not a whole lot of money in this. Most of the gigs are in South America and Europe. 4 out of the 5 band members live on the American West Coast in this band. So it's tough, but news as far as the band goes is the album's out February 20th. We are playing the Frontiers Rock Festival on May 3rd. Starship is headlining night 1. I think there's a bunch of other great bands on that festival.
Yeah,
and we are sort of
we just talked to Robin McCauley the other day, and I think he's going to be on that as well for Frontiers doing stuff. Yeah,
we can't wait. I'm going to try to fly in early and just see everyone else and be an AOR fan, because that's what I am. But yeah, after the album has been out for about 6 months, this fall, I say, if you ask me this fall, when we sort of know at what level these songs connect, I think there will be more news. I definitely see us playing some more next summer. Spring, summer of 27, I think could be kind of busy for us if this album does okay. Except for that, I think we're just playing the festival in Italy, and we're going to put out some fun merch, because a lot of people in our genre, they love that. And also, the thing that I'm doing is, just because I know there's a lot of musicians that like this music, and even fans that aren't musicians that want to know how it's made. So I am making these little 5-10 minute videos where I go into detail how we made every song. And so if people really like this band and they want stuff to consume, there'll be 9 videos where I describe how the song came to be, how it was birthed and how it was made, because they're quite different, the songs on this record. So I think that's what we have to offer right now. And I am trying, since we're still a small band, everyone that comments on our social media or messages us, I personally try to take care of everyone or everything. We've had some messages about people wondering about a vinyl. I would assume Frontiers, our label, are waiting to see if the CD does okay the first few months, then they might print some vinyl. But that's sort of where everything's at, and that's all the news I have regarding the project.
Okay, and so for the videos and stuff you mentioned, do you have a YouTube channel, or should they go to your website? Yes. Or where should they go for that?
Yes, we do have a YouTube channel. It's very small because the music videos themselves are put out by the label. So on Frontier's website, their YouTube channel obviously is almost 600,000 followers. That's the place to catch our music. But if you want the behind the scenes and the nerdy stuff, it's going to be on Transatlantic Radio's YouTube channel, which is very easy to find.
Okay, great. Yeah, and if you guys want to check out the videos for Transatlantic Radio, we will have the videos posted on our website with links in our Hall of Videos, where you can check out the video for City of Angels and the first single, Wide Awake, from Transatlantic Radio. All right.
And well, if I might be so bold, there's actually a third music video that we put out before we got signed for our big sort of hysteria-like power ballad called Fever Dream. That one is it's on YouTube. So there are 3 videos that have been professionally made, but Fever Dream, the one we did before Frontiers, is the most ambitious video, quite beautiful. So I would encourage people to check out that, but you will not find it on the Frontiers site. They might put that out later, but it's on the Transatlantic Radio site.
Okay, on your YouTube channel.
Yep.
All right, great. All right, well, thank you so much, Victor. Really appreciate it. Best of luck on the new album.
I really appreciate you taking the time, Robert, to have me on. The other fellas appreciate it as well. And they were very excited to hear that I was doing your podcast, because you're U.S. And melodic rock is a huge European thing. And I've been doing a lot of European podcasts the last few days. And I'm so glad to have a North American gentleman to talk to some of the people over here too.
Yeah, we appreciate it. So that wraps up this episode of Talk About Rock. Thank you to my guest today, Victor Brodén from Transatlantic Radio. And to our listeners, we hope you're doing your part to keep the torch alive and support live music wherever you are. Victor, again, thank you.
Cheers. Thanks.